Each and every day, many insignificant events take place, but it's not every day that a major event happens. On April 9th, 1991, I. Tom Platt was born. April 9th just so happens to hold many important events in American history. For example, on April 9th, 1865, Robert E. Lee and the Confederate Army surrendered in the Civil War. On April 9th, 1959, NASA announced its first 7 astronauts. And on April 9th, 1942, the United States surrendered to Japan in Bataan. Let's take a look at one of the more significant events that happened on this day. After fighting 4 long years, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant on the afternoon of April 9th, 1865. The two had exchanged letters 2 days before discussing surrender. They eventually decided to meet at Wilmer McLean's farmhouse in Appomattox, Virginia, where some say the Civil War started. This meeting was very awkward. At first, they talked about how they knew each other when they fought alongside in the Mexican War, but quickly moved into terms of surrender. After a while, they signed a treaty of peace, which ultimately led to the end of the Civil War. Now let's jump forward a bit and talk about what happened 94 years later. On April 9th, 1959, NASA inducted its first 7 astronauts. Scott Carpenter, Gordon Cooper, John H. Glenn, Virgil Gus Grissom, Walter Schirra, Alan Shepard, and Donald Slayton were selected from a group of 32 military test pilots. The selection process was vigorous. They had to complete many tests, such as hours on treadmills and tilt tables. They were subjected to temperatures such as up to 103 degrees. Their feet were placed in ice water for hours on end and took many handwritten tests. The 7 men later became known as the Mercury 7 because of the Project Mercury. Shepard became the first American launched into space aboard Freedom 7 in 1961. However, he did not fully orbit the Earth. Glenn was bestowed the honor 11 months later on Friendship 7 in 1962. With the advancements made by the Mercury 7 and their team, NASA was able to conduct many more successful space missions. Now, the last event that we will discuss happened 17 years before the Mercury 7 was selected. One of the more tragic events that occurred on this date in history was the surrender of U.S. troops in Bataan, Philippines. On April 9th, 1942, Major General Edward P. King and 78,000 troops, 66,000 which were Filipinos and 12,000 which were Americans, surrendered to the Japanese. This is the largest surrender in U.S. history. As soon as they surrendered, they were forced to walk 55 miles to San Fernando, a POW camp. This trip later became known as the Bataan Death March. Along the way, they were beaten, shot, and stabbed. If they fell behind or slowed the group at all, they were killed immediately. Many tried to escape, but few succeeded. 16 Filipinos and 1,000 Americans died during the march. Those who survived were shipped to other POW camps by railway. Every year, the Bataan Memorial Death March takes place in the White Sands of New Mexico. Last year, 5,000 people took place in the march to pay tribute to the fallen soldiers. All three of these events are big parts of American history. It was very surprising to find out that all of these events took place on my birthday. These events have made our country what it is today, and I'm proud to share them with my birthday.